Hi everyone, my name is Pian Pian. I'm the founder and CEO of Amotions. Amotions is a platform to help you increase success and happiness by developing skills important for that, such as emotional intelligence, leadership skills, and interpersonal skills. We're very happy today to have leadership coach Sydney Paradise here. Sydney has been a coach since 2001, and she has coached leaders from different organizations in various capacities, and herself has had management and leadership roles in Fortune 100 companies prior to becoming a full-time coach. Sydney, we're really happy to have you today here. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you. It's fun. A good opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Is there anything else you would like to add to your self-introduction?
I might share my passion, right? I have decades of leadership experience in Fortune 100 companies and have experienced everything in those in that experience. And my passion has become to really help develop leaders. And it is the notion that if I can help you, one person, become a more effective leader, then all the people you lead can have an improvement in their life, as well as your organization getting better results. So that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I think it's very true that you're not just having one person; it's also helping the team and the organization as a whole. I'm curious, what are the most common challenges you have heard from coaching your leaders and clients in the past 2 decades?
Well, there are several themes, whether I'm coaching women or men, young people or experienced leaders, there's so much on people's plates. And so sort of managing that and keeping some sort of balance and being able to feel successful, as opposed to that the light of at the end of the tunnel is always an oncoming train. And so stress management, balance, interpersonal communication skills, her communication skills, that's a funny faux pas. Being able to give and receive feedback without taking it personally, being
Yes.
able to hold a difficult conversation
Mm-hmm.
in a way that's going to get the desired outcomes and results. Managing my own nervous system as a leader so that I can be a non-anxious presence in an otherwise anxious environment, and the stress and anxiety doesn't go away.
Mm-hmm.
So how can I be more effective in that and actually use that stress to sort of power myself in the best possible sense of the word power, and create conditions for my team such that people hold themselves accountable, and so that they can bring their best to the table,
Mm-hmm.
and that therefore everyone is better off and the results are better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, those are challenges that I've heard from other emotions users and customers,
Mm.
community members. I think stress management is it's particularly important now with the pandemic
Mhm.
continues and with the virtual
Yeah.
environment. Curious, like what approaches do you use to help your clients with stress management?
Well, the first thing I do with any client, so if you and I were working together, for example,
Mhm.
is get really clear what is that you want to have be different for
Mhm.
you in your work, in your life. What are your coaching goals? I help my clients write goals that are really clear and
Mhm.
specific and as measurable as possible. And then learn, I have a questionnaire and some assessments I do so that I can learn enough about my client that I can make an assessment based on how I'm trained as a coach on what I think is going to help them the most to achieve their goals,
Mhm.
specific goals, and what will open up for them if they do achieve those goals, whatever they might be. So every single coaching engagement is different. I don't have anything that's canned, right? It depends on you. It depends on your coaching goals. It depends what you want help with. And then I sort of reach up and pull things off of my coaching shelf and apply them to you and what you want help with. And it's very common for me to start out with either with some way to help you manage your own nervous system, right? And your energy, because it's so important as a leader. And so that could be a leadership embodiment practices from Wendy Palmer's work. It might be positive intelligence. There's a 6-week boot camp I often start my clients with, where they learn mental fitness practices that help them shift from their survival brain, where we're often hanging out when we get triggered and when we're under pressure and stress, and we are not very effective when we're there. We're in habitual patterns of our personality under pressure. And so mental fitness practices help be able to consciously, purposely shift to other parts of my brain where I have access to my knowledge, my skill, my intuition, my empathy, my superpowers, really. And so that really speeds up what we can do in coaching. So I really often start there to help people manage their own nervous system, their own energy, be able to shift to the part of their brain, mostly right brain, where they have access to skills and abilities and that they don't have access to when they're running under pressure. I'm not sure I answered your question, but that's commonly where we start. And I have found that if we do start there and create a foundation, it helps people in all aspects of their life, not just at work. And then whatever we tackle in coaching, we can get more done faster because they have this ability that they didn't have before we started coaching.
That's great. So it's practices for mental fitness as well as practices that kind of help us have a way to be more present and not triggered by the kind of pre-wired survival mode, and be in the more way that gets
because we know that maybe less than 10% of the meaning that people make from what we say and what we do comes from the actual words we use, right? So maybe 90%, 80 to 90% come from our energy and our body language and our facial expressions and the tone of our voice. And so being able to shift out of being triggered and in my survival brain to this other part of my brain, which I call center. In positive intelligence, they refer to it as sage. In many different methodologies, they have a different name for that, but you know it, right? When you get there, it's like things are clearer. You can take in more information. You have more courage, right? The chance that the decision you make and the action you take when you're coming from that part of yourself being effective is much greater than if you take action from being triggered and in your survival. So it's really an important part of the way I work with people, and increasingly in recent years, I do more of that. So I have certifications in 6 different coaching methodologies. And so I can, help clients where they are with what they want help with to help them reach their goals. I use a different mix for each client. So it's all custom.
What's an example practice that you have the clients to help them be more centered?
Okay, that's fun. So a basic centering practice to start a coaching conversation, for example. You can do this with me. Anybody watching can do it. So just inhale up. Imagine your breath going up. Exhale down, softening your front. So inhale up, lengthening your posture, dignified posture. Exhale down twice as long, softening your front, and think of someone or something that makes you smile
Mhm.
and smile. And then reference your energy field in front, behind, to the left, to the right, and imagine extending it to include me. I'm across the country from you, but at least to fill the room you're in. And then if you have any other tension in your body, let gravity help you relax it,
Mhm.
like your jaw or your shoulders. And if you still don't feel like you've shifted to your sage or your center, you could just rub two fingers together.
Mhm.
With such a tension, you can feel the ridges on your fingertips. And so this helps you get out of your thinking brain and into this amazing other part of your brain where you have so many superpowers. So do you notice a difference
I think so.
just in that,
Yeah.
like 1 minute? Yeah.
Yeah. I often suggest our emotions users to do a loving kindness meditation
Ah, yes,
at the
that's great.
beginning of a session, which is similar or related to what you talk about, kind of the breathing
Mhm,
and think
mhm.
about someone that makes you smile.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
yeah, I think that's very effective. And do you often suggest clients to do that in their daily lives as well when they
Yes.
face
Yeah.
stressful situations?
Yeah, yes, for sure. So what actually happens physiologically and why it works
Mhm.
is when I'm triggered, right? I There's an automatic response in my survival brain. It takes over. It's unconscious. I
Mhm.
start running cortisol in my body, and which isn't good for me. And I'm not really in danger, but my brain thinks I'm in danger. So here we
Mhm.
go. Well, what happens is the practice, the leadership embodiment practice from Wendy Palmer's work that we just did, the lengthening of your spine, that getting rid of tension and lengthening extender muscles will
Mhm.
start generating testosterone in men and women,
Mhm.
which connects us to our big picture thinking, our risk taking, our confidence, all of that, which we don't have if we're in our survival brain. The smiling, thinking of someone or something that makes you smile and smile, actually triggers oxytocin, which is another stress hormone, but it's the one that connects us with people,
Mhm.
which, so just there, it's like strong back, soft front, you know, a great leadership cocktail, I think, testosterone and oxytocin instead of cortisol and adrenaline.
Mhm.
So the practices actually have scientific physiology, neurology, psychology grounding that is why they work, but they're so simple. So yes, I do ask my clients to practice throughout the day, either a leadership embodiment practice like this centering or
Mhm.
a positive intelligence mental fitness practice, because anytime you focus, and you can take this and do it, but anytime you command your mind to focus on sensation
Mhm.
and shift out of your thinking mind, you have access to this whole other part of your brain, your
Mhm.
superpowers. So
That-
yeah, some simple little practices that can make huge difference for people
Mhm.
right away. And then you can see how that would help you do whatever you're taking on in your coaching, whether you want him to be a better presenter at, for large audiences. Well, you can see how this small practices can help you already before you even learn how to craft a compelling message and how to deliver it with dynamics that don't put your audience to sleep,
Mm.
right? So the foundation practices that I ask my clients to do really support them no matter what their other coaching goals are.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I think
Mm,
I agree with you. And research shows that too. A lot of the communications come with body language and tones and presence, not necessarily the words said. So
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
You know that experience. So a leader walks in the room and there's an impact before they ever open their mouth,
mm-hmm.
right? And so I help my clients have the impact when they walk in the room before they ever open their mouth. It has everybody feel like we're all in this together. You
Mm-hmm.
know, no matter what we're facing, you know, we'll be able to move through it. And so as opposed to having everybody cringe because the energy is so off. And you know that experience. And
Yeah.
so integral coaching, which is my, you know, sort of my foundational methodology, I trained for 2 years at New Ventures West. We really do work with the whole person.
Mm.
You could say body, mind, and spirit, or, you know, intellectually, emotionally, and physically, because all of those are connected. And so we don't leave anything out.
That's
So
great. Yeah, that's wonderful. Curious, you mentioned interpersonal relationships is one of the challenges or communication you help clients with. And
mhm.
how about in the cases of everybody working virtually or in a hybrid virtual and
Oh,
person environment? You can't walk into the room with someone in person. What are the purchase or tips do you kind of suggest your clients, your leaders to do to kind of
mhm,
cultivate the good interpersonal relationships and handle feedback or give feedback in this kind of
mhm.
situation?
Yeah. It's actually more challenging in the virtual world. And yet, even before the pandemic, many global companies,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that I've worked with have already had issues. Like my team is scattered around the
Mm-hmm.
world. And how
Right.
do I do this? And I actually believe the very same practices are
Mm-hmm.
useful whether you're on the phone or you're in a video call, and you can Google and find out, well, how can I have better lighting and how can I show up better and make sure my sound is good. I mean, you know, so there's the technology side of that. That would not be what I would work with. However, my presence, am I looking into your eyes through the camera?
Mm-hmm.
Um, if I'm agitated in my survival brain, I promise you can feel it.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I feel calm and not scattered and clear and present. And my guess is you can feel that. And
Mm-hmm.
so with the pandemic, I used to do a lot of in-person coaching with my executive clients. And that was my preference. That's how I was trained. I didn't do much phone or video coaching in between, you know, but I would travel to my client and meet in person. I've been amazed how much is possible on video. And so it's opened a new world for me. It's like I've discovered my clients can get help on a video coaching call.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even an audio call sometimes is more effective for me because I'm not distracted by any of the video and I actually can really tune in even to a greater degree with what my client is saying and how they're saying it and the underlying energy of it. And it is sort of like my questions can come from there and sometimes more effectively than if I'm on a Zoom call.
Mm-hmm.
So we work on applying the very same things
Mm-hmm.
that I would do in person with you, however, on the phone
Mm-hmm.
or over Zoom,
Yeah.
pausing, noticing if I'm triggered, making sure I get myself back before I respond. I can do that on a video call, right? Just as
Mm-hmm.
well as I can in person.
Right. Yeah. So it's kind of like applying some of the similar principles and
Mhm.
practices to
Yes.
make sure we're centered ourselves and have the energy level and in being in a good mindset that things will come
Mhm.
across even virtually as well.
right. And how is what I'm doing and saying affecting the
Mhm.
other person?
Right.
And so on a video call, if I see you, I get some clues. And on a phone call, I don't see you. However, if I'm paying attention, I'm really present, not distracted.
Mhm.
Um, Pause, inquire.
Mhm.
So how please share how what I've said so far is impacting you, right? It is a question I can ask if I'm not sure.
Mhm.
Or I can say, well, it seemed like your facial expression changed. I noticed your shoulders going up, but maybe we could stop for a minute and check in,
Mhm.
right? It's that same thing I would do in person.
Mhm. Yeah,
I don't
that's very
see.
true. That kind of
Mhm,
paying attention on the other person and
mhm.
ask questions, a pause to listen and checking in with how
Right.
the other person is feeling and thinking.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah.
that's
So,
yeah, that's very good principles kind of
mhm.
that we can all learn in in our interactions with other people.
Yeah. And it's so common, whether video or not, where people
Mhm.
will be imagining what someone else is thinking. I'm kind of like, so you have mind reading skills I'm not aware of, right? Well, it seems like, and they're angry, and I go, well, how would you know? How could you know what's really going on for that person? And it's like eventually someone will, I could ask them. You could ask them,
Mhm.
right? Oh, I could ask them how how they're feeling, or how something impacted them, or what they want. So we do, as humans, make up lots of stories and think that's the truth, when actually it's a story, and that's how we make sense of things. But being able to discern when it's my story about something versus it's actually the facts and data that anyone looking at a video of that situation would be able to describe it that way.
Mhm.
That's often not what we're talking about. We're talking about our own spin on things. So I often work with clients like, do you know whether it's your own spin or the actual truth of what's happening? And if is there more information that would be useful to you, and how would you get that information?
Mhm.
Because so often our stress comes from the story we're making up about something.
That's
Right?
very true. Yeah, kind of
Mhm. Yeah.
um, not assuming other people's attention or
Yes.
intention, and then checking to see
Yeah.
what the other
Yeah.
person actually.
Yeah, exactly. Because intention and impact are both private. So action is public. And so if there's a disconnect between what I intend and how it impacts you, the only way we can close that gap is if we inquire, right? Or if I share, well, this was my intention. Is that how it landed? And you could say, oh no, you meant that as a compliment. I took it as an insult.
Mm,
Oh, I really did mean it as a compliment. I mean, it's like that's where you bridge that interpersonal gap, which is one of my favorite models. It's an old model, but really good. And I almost always work
yeah,
with clients. I think it was Robert Wallen many years ago, but some models, they're still useful. I bring them to the table.
yeah. I like the way of thinking about what's the action, what's the intention, what's the action, what's the impact, and
Mhm.
then kind of how to
Yeah.
be aware of all these three and not mix them up. Yeah.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And there are some emotions customers and community members kind of they're wondering like, okay, I'm a leader of a team and I want my team to be a high performing team. We want to achieve this
Mhm.
result by this time, or I would like my team to be more effective in doing this, or my team to put in more efforts in doing this. In this kind of
Mhm.
case, what are the approaches you would use with your clients to help them achieve this kind of goals and
Uh,
practice do you what's an example practice you suggest them to do?
Well, it depends, obviously, right?
Right.
So again, like every coaching
Yeah.
is custom, it's the same thing. So for example, on one extreme, I
Mhm.
have a leader who's like, my team is just isn't, they used to be good, but they're not good anymore. They don't take initiative, they this and they that, and you know,
Mhm.
all these complaints about her team not performing. And my coaching question was, how much sleep are you getting? Right? It's just so depends. What does that have to do with anything? I said, well, I'm not sure. However, I know that if I'm not rested, I'm not getting enough sleep, my lifestyle, I don't have practices that help me stay healthy, that everything frustrates me more.
Mhm.
It's harder for me to deal with things. So in that case, I worked with her, and lo and behold, after she took a little better care of herself, all of a sudden her team was fine again and doing well. It was all her and her reactivity and her impatience and all of that, because she was exhausted, and the team didn't change. And then we could do some work with how the team is working together, right? So in another case, the team itself is very dysfunctional,
Mhm.
and there's a new leader coming in, and so how do we assess? We do an assessment, see what's working and what isn't.
Mm.
What does this team need? Do they need agreements on how they're going to work together, or do they actually need to build their competence and their skillfulness at
Mhm.
working collaboratively?
Mm.
So it always depends. And most recently, you know, I've done this positive intelligence mental fitness um, boot camp, and I offer that to us. So I put a team through the 6-week boot camp together.
Oh,
And
wow.
so they learned this ability to shift to that other part of their brain
Mm.
together.
Yeah.
They shared about, you know, their saboteurs and their judges and how that was impacting things. They learned the skill for innovation, you know, for having a brainstorming meeting in a
Mm.
way that actually really lifted the whole team and got more ideas. They learned how to use these specific skills that you have access to in this part of your brain together, and they're like amazed, right, at how much better they're functioning. But for another team, I might want to do something completely different. It
Mm.
might be there's no trust. So how do we build trust with that team? And so I, I mean, I feel a little embarrassed to just keep saying, well, it depends. It depends. It really does,
Great. Yeah.
on where a team is and what their skillfulness
Mm.
is, what their willingness is, what the
Mhm.
trust level is, their, if failure's okay or not.
Mhm.
You know, are they learning from their experience or not? Do they have each other's backs or not? I mean, there's so many different ways. So I start with assessing, well, what's really going on
Mhm. Yeah,
in this.
that's very true that kind of we need to know where the problem is before we know what is the right way to kind of work with a team and
Yeah.
the situation. So yeah, I think that's a very
I hope I answered your question.
yes, I think so. You mentioned kind of helping one of the teams to work more collaboratively, and you, I think you previously mentioned you also help teams work more inclusively. I
Mhm.
think kind of inclusivity and collaboration is often kind of discussed nowadays, like
Mhm.
how to do that is besides what you just mentioned, is there anything else you want to add to like helping teams to become that way?
Well, the leadership makes a huge difference, right? And I'm
Mhm.
usually working with the leader of the
Mhm.
team. And interestingly, what came to mind was a client I had a long, long time ago who wanted help improving his listening skills.
Mhm.
And because the employee survey had low marks on his listening, and I asked, well, how do you think coaching would help? And he said, well, you could recommend a class maybe, or some books, or, Well, what I noticed in my initial interview with this leader is that he exhibited all of the listening skills that I know of, right? He paraphrased plus, he was present, he was attentive, and I'm thinking, this leader knows how to listen. So I gave him a self-observation exercise to just gather data. So at the end of the day, look back on 3 conversations you had, give yourself a rating, how much on 1 to 10, how much you think you listened. Also rate how much you think the person you were talking with felt heard on a scale of 1 to 10. And then jot down thoughts and emotions and any physical sensations you remember having. Because I don't know what's going on, so I'd like more information for both of us. Well, when I met with him the next time, 2 weeks later, he said, well, it's a different issue. And I said, well, what is the issue? He said, I don't feel that anyone here has anything worth listening to. You get that? Like, I'm the one who knows. They really don't have anything to offer.
Okay.
So that's what came to my mind when you think about leading inclusively, leading collaboratively. It depends so much, because if I'm working with a leader who really believes in what the people bring, all of the people at the table bring, and wants to create conditions that they can all bring themselves to the table and offer what they have to offer, and who wants to have a clear decision process so that people know how we're going to make decisions, and all of that is part of it, versus a leader who really disregards certain people who are part of the team, doesn't see the value they bring, right? Whole different approach.
Yes.
With one versus the other. And then when you have that first scenario, a leader who really wants to create, right? Then there are wonderful tools available, like how to run the meeting, how to do brainstorming, being clear about how your decisions are going to be made. Some teams, they want to make all decisions by some consensus, which I think that's a mistake. I think it's a worthy goal, but it's like here's the decision we need to make together. We want to reach a consensus. If we don't reach a consensus, how will the decision be made? It'll be John or Susan because it impacts their team the most, or because they have the most knowledge and skill. So we go for consensus, but it's clear up front how we're going to decide if no consensus is reached. And my husband, we used to work in the government, wouldn't matter, any corporation, but his boss would say, I want input from everybody. And it was so clear. He already had made his decision, right? And he was just going through steps. Well, people know that. So it's like shifting to a place where I really care what people think. I really want their input to this.
Right.
I have ways of working, and I train people ways of working together so they get the richest, or to stop and get everybody a deeper understanding of the issue before continuing to make a decision. There are ways to do that work really well. So lots of tools I can bring off the shelf as needed. So is that helpful?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's kind of depending on the mindset of the person you're interacting with and what their real issue is. Yeah. Yeah, that's very much true. Thank you so much, Cindy.
Oh, it's great. It was really fun. I guess I love talking about coaching. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you so much. I think the audience will find it very helpful. And if anyone listening would like to learn more, please visit amotionsinc.com for more. And you can join as a member to access more helpful information, practices, content, and even an introductory session within a experienced coach and expert like Sydney herself. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for listening in, and see you later. Bye-bye.
Great to see you. Bye.
Bye.